One of the most frequently asked questions on my channel is how I deal with the rain. And in this video, we're going to talk about that. Hello everyone, my name is Chuck, you're watching Cerriscapades, and normally I would be working on a Let's Plant episode now, but it has been raining for the past several days. I think it's been over a week now. According to the forecast, it's still going to continue raining for the next several days. Whenever I check succulent groups or forums online, I always see people getting so worked up, so worried whenever it starts raining, and I can't blame them for that. A lot of people associate rain with an increased chance of rot. I'm pretty sure a lot of you can relate having lost plants due to watering too much or having them exposed in the rain. They would suddenly rot from the stem. It happens, it's pretty much valid, which is why it's not an unfounded fear. And this is why a lot of people keep asking me. I have my plants out in the open, fully exposed to the elements, to the rain, sun, and they seem to be wondering how come or why I seem foolish enough or brave enough to have them out in the open. In order to be successful doing this thing, you need to understand how rot happens. There's so many ways to get your plants to rot, and a lot of people associate it with excess moisture. Well, there is a correlation there, of course, but you can't blame it solely to water. The thing is, with succulents, they need a tiny amount of water compared to other plants, or at least it is an illusion. It's not that they need a tiny amount of water per se, it's more of that they are so efficient at retaining water, whereas regular plants, normal plants, they lose a lot of this water due to evaporation. Let's say I poured a bucket full of water onto a regular plant. Maybe about 70 or 80% of that water would be wasted by the plant because they would just be evaporating, and not necessarily evaporating due to the sun. Well, technically yeah, but they lose the water when they do their respiration, their transpiration. That is when the leaves open up their pores, do an exchange of gases. When the spores, the stomata and the leaves are exposed to the heat of the sun, it also exposes the water to the sunlight, which means that they would evaporate. So imagine having a lot of these tiny holes open during the day, and it's during daylight that we get the most amount of heat, and in scorching days there would be a lot of evaporation. Succulents and other cam plants have evolved such that they do this gas exchange, this transpiration, respiration at night, where they are less likely to lose a lot of this water due to evaporation. So they are retaining a lot more compared to regular plants. Now, why do they do this? Regular plants are lucky enough to live in a place where they have access to a lot of water. This is usually in the tropics or somewhere where it is more humid. You can't say the same for cam plants. Now, if you're wondering what I meant by cam plants, I made a separate video about it in my watering video, I think. You'll learn a bit more about them there. But apart from that, just bear with me. Cam plants are basically those types of plants that have evolved to be more efficient with the amount of water that they get, which is very little. Now, going back to my garden, I mentioned that I am not worried about rainfall. I'm not worried about data because I understand how the whole thing works. Let's go through a few points one by one. Point number one, I do the necessary preparation precautions on my soil. You've seen me in the last few episodes of Let's Plant working on my soil mix and raising my garden bed. That way, I take advantage of soil mechanics to help me with my water problem. By having loose soil, a well-draining mix, and raising the bed somewhat, this means that the water would not likely stay at the surface where most of the roots of the succulents are, and instead they would be flowing all the way down, deep down. So that's the first point. The second point, and something that I've been stressing so much in my Let's Plant videos and in my posts and comments, is that you have to give them enough airflow. There's so many ways to achieve that, one of which is to remove all of the dead leaves underneath. Just make sure that it is open and there would be enough ventilation, because having a lot of undergrowth and detritus underneath just means that a lot of moisture would be trapped, and we do not want the plants to get more moisture than it needs. And a third point related to the previous one about moisture retention would be microbes and fungi. Now, if you ever had your plants die due to stem rot, this is most likely it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, water itself is harmless to plants. All it does is engorges the leaves of your plants, and too much water just usually results in the plant bursting. The leaves are bursting, you would see wide open pores, or bursting. The real cause of stem rot would be microbes and fungi. Now, why does it seem to happen more when the plant stays wet for too long? Answer is pretty simple. When it is wet or moist, that is the ideal environment for fungus to grow in. Water is a good medium for bacteria to move around the plant. So if you've got parts of the plant exposed, an open wound, a cut or something, when it's wet, then it's likely that bacteria have gone into it already. Now, most of these bacteria are harmless. They are found in the soil after all, so I won't be talking about them as much. But then there's this other thing that we call fungus. They are the real killers. Now, as to fighting fungus, you only have to know the conditions where they thrive in. Fungus are active when it's warm or hot and wet, so you'll tend to have more fungal attacks during the warmer months, say summer. In my case, it is winter down here in Melbourne, which is why I'm not too concerned that my plants are too wet or will continue to be wet for the next week or so. At least according to the forecast, there's still a high chance of rain for the next week. I still don't see a sunny day in my forecast. So basically what I'm saying is that I'm lucky to live in an area where it tends to rain more in winter than in summer, although it does also rain in summer. But I think everything works out. When it rains in summer, the days tend to be a bit colder than usual, which means that maybe the fungus won't be as active as they used to, as opposed to, say, if you did your own watering, then basically you're interrupting the cycle and providing a good environment for the fungus to grow. Now, this is for that exact reason why during the hottest days of summer, I tend to cut back on my watering, or at least I wait until the temperatures go down a bit before I drench them. But in a pinch, it's fine to water them anyway, because when it's too hot, the water would be evaporating anyway. The soil would be drying out right away, unless you have problems with your drainage and ventilation. So point 1 and 2. But assuming that you're fine with all 3 points that I mentioned earlier, then you'll be fine with having them in the ground. So here I am, not being so worried about my plants and my soil being so wet, so drenched, because I know that right now fungus won't even be able to grow. It's cold and they would just be dormant. But what about the other seasons where fungus is more active? Then this is where you would fight them with antifungals. Use your antifungal of choice. Now, according to the forecast, it's still going to rain sometime tonight. Doesn't seem like I'll be able to do a Let's Plant episode this weekend, so I'll see you whenever. Bye.